Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is just take a step back and have a look at why this is an exciting addition to the UniPhi ecosystem, and how UniPhi really beds down the opportunity of leveraging these new tools that are coming on the marketplace to extract and leverage the data that you've already created by persevering and putting in information into the application. And I'm not an AI evangelist by any stretch of the imagination, but it has thrown up some pretty impressive stuff for us over the last 6 months, and included knocking out this little slide for me today before this webinar to help me explain the data flows and how UniPhi streamlines that data quality issue that really messes up commercial AI leverage. And when you think about all the disparate sources of information, that is really gold information, and how hard it is to get it into a lake that's actually integrated and talks to one another. The Excel budget knows what the MS project schedule is, and they're actually the same projects and things like that. So on the left-hand side here, we've got UniPhi as a very broad web application. So you're able to capture a lot of information directly within the application to help you run the project, which is what its primary purpose is. And that gets distributed as data capture model that you have seen from webinars in the past. Then in addition to that, you've got a whole range of other sources that you can integrate into the application. In this particular slide, we've got emails, we've got Excel, we've got MS Project or P6, we've got ERP financials as well. On the next slide, we'll show a whole host of others. So these connectors plus direct entry is coming into a structured database with a semantic model and a REST API coming out the other end. And so that kind of cleans the data for you instantly and creates this governed source of truth out the other end. Now, traditionally, we have been putting that into 4 reporting platforms, one of which is an embedded Power BI platform, but we have 3 other embedded reporting platforms in UniPhi out of the box. We've also worked with clients to put it into their data warehouse environment so they can connect with other systems that may not come into UniPhi and do it that way. But today, what we're going to do is we're going to focus on the bottom right-hand corner, where we are creating our own apps off this information. And what I see this as doing is really replacing the top 2 over time, and enabling total flexibility around the way that people capture their information. Because that's the nuanced element, right? So UniPhi has quite a strong no-code configuration engine that you can use to build your workflows, your templates, your risk profiles, your issue categories and workflows. And that captures all the data in a really structured way. But then the plethora, the infinite possibilities of the way our clients want to analyze the information has been a battle to solve. And I think that this future really does do that. And one of the keys, obviously, you need to work with your tech departments, your IT teams, around what you're allowed to do in these applications, but it is possible to structure, and we've worked through the requirements here to structure a closed ecosystem where Claude Code is building you IP that you own. You're not giving it any of your data, you're just giving it the framework and the model, and it's working through the code on that. And then the application itself is calling the UniPhi API through an authentication layer, all secured, all encrypted in transit and at rest, and complying with any sort of commercial requirements that you may have. So that's where we're trying to get to, and hence, even if, as is predicted by some people in the industry, LLMs blow up and some other companies struggle in a sort of .com style crash, what you've built with that code, which I think a lot of it will still stick around like it did in .com, what you've built with that is your IP. It's working, it's running, it's a separate application, it's there ready for you to use. And I think we're going to do, like this morning's presentation, I built an app in 11 minutes, right? It took 11 minutes. So we're going to expand that app now, and it'll probably take a lot less. So this could be a short webinar, but there's a little bit of background information to give you first so that you can go away and do this after the session if you want to. But yeah, that would have taken 11 months, 10 years ago. All right. So just to reiterate on the data in part, this is a common slide we present to people when starting a relationship with UniPhi. And the plethora of data sources, the integration with Costex out of the box, integration with ERPs, integration with email and Excel. And then on the right-hand side, these are direct interfaces that you can capture in UniPhi or potentially suck that information in as well. A little bit more complicated, but because we've got the data models already, we can actually synchronize with those applications as well. And so whatever your tech stack is to deliver your portfolio of projects, UniPhi can be that governing cleaning engine for you to get that information out in a reporting framework, in an analytics framework, in a predictive framework. So now we're going to dig into the details, guys. It's pretty cool. What we're going to use is Claude Code. And when you go into Claude Code, it's going to ask you some questions. And about 3 months ago, I just tested this out as an idea that we could possibly then run a webinar on later. And I didn't have any of the software installed on my laptop to do anything. And so I had to set up the environment. Now, that was the hardest part, right? But once you've got it set up, I'm now able to create new apps off the unified data model, as I said today, in 11 minutes. So I'm not going to go through that in this webinar, but Claude does prompt you on what you need to do, and it's there to help. So I got there, took about an hour and a half. I'm sure you guys could as well. What I did with my tech stack was I asked for a Python backend, which is going to be the platform and programming language to actually do the math and to store the data, or to generate the data. So it generates JSON files off the API. So the JSON files are the data sources, and then the Python code does the math. And then I asked it to build a React front end and to implement the hosting of that locally. I told it that it needs to use a basic forms authentication to a large REST API. Now, it freaked out at that a little bit, not on the authentication, but on the scale of our API. When I pointed it to him, it goes, wow, this is a big API. This is a lot. And we've got like 130 endpoints in there. So I had to calm it down and say, it's okay. I'm going to give you the endpoints you need. You won't need all of them. And in this exercise, I'm only going to I've only given it two. The two endpoints I've given it are the timesheet endpoint and the project endpoint. And that's all we needed to build this app. So I just said, that's all right. You'll only need two endpoints. I'll give you the URL and the endpoints plus specifications once the environment is set up. But I don't have any of the coding platforms mentioned installed. So you'll need to do this first. So what I would suggest to you is you give it the specification I'm going to give you in a moment. But you say, I don't have anything set up. So first just set up the coding platform and off it'll go. Now, to put that into context, I'm going to just pivot over to Claude. Give me a second. Find it in my many apps that are open at the moment. And this is a history of that conversation. So this is actually my first comment in Claude ever, Claude Code. I just said, look, connect to a REST API to be the data source for an app with a business logic layer in the middle. Pretty thin. And it said, well, that's all great, mate, but what kind of app are you building? What is the REST API that will be the data source, and what language stack should the code be in? And they're my answers: React, an external API, and Python. So, okay, good. And then it just went through and it kept asking me questions. And I kept answering them. So there are multiple API endpoints. Do you want just one endpoint, the base URL, or all endpoints, and blah, 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 blah. So I can't remember in here somewhere in here you'll see where it says, oh my goodness, what a big thing. And I just calmed it down. So we walked through all of that and we got an app out the door, and that was our first go at it. And I thought, that's cool. I can definitely show people how to do that. So setting up the environment is your first thing that you'll need to do. And as I said, just tell it what you need, and it'll install all the software. It'll download it and put it in place, and away you go. Once you've done that, you'll then need to give it a more detailed specification instruction. Now, today, in the first webinar, which we will email you the recording of, this was the instruction I gave it on the next slide. So I said, use the timesheet and project endpoints to create 4 charts with parameters down the side of the screen. Chart 1 is an XY scatter with duration of a project in days on the Y-axis and average cost on the X. Use difference between earliest and latest timesheet entry dates for duration, and sum the product of hours times cost rate for cost. Provide a sum of square line of best fit regression. For parameters, add the sector, service, line, project type, and location drop down, and a cost range slider. Put the project name, start date, end date as hover information on the scatter dot. Complete this and leave space on the canvas for the other 3 charts, and let me see the results in a web browser. Then I'll give you the other 3 charts. So that was the instructions. 11 minutes later, and where have you gone? I got this. And so this is the application as it stands at this point in time. We have a XY scatter. It's got duration on the Y. It's got cost on the X. It's got all of these filters and a slider. So when I slide it around, it changes that. And if I hover on the dot, it tells me the project. Now, this is coming from a demo database of ours. This Crown Plaza Tower is a project in that database. And if we look at it, we can see that the cost is 137,955. Now, in that webinar, I didn't test it. So this is all untested. So this is now the next flow on from that webinar. This is the application that called the data. If I go into Crown Plaza and I go to the resources module, it's just waking up. And I go to resource planning. This is our new funky screens that we've developed for resource planning. And in that, you can pivot the unit to be cost. And so you can see there's an actual cost column for this Crown Plaza Tower. And as I scroll down, there's a total at the bottom, and it says 137,955. Now, I'm sorry, I'm doing this webinar at home, guys. I'm getting an unstable internet connection notice, so hopefully this is coming through. It'd be a tragedy if it isn't. But anyway, that's the total actual cost. If I jump back to the React front end that's called this through the REST API, and I hover on that dot, what do I get? 137,955. So we've tested, not very thoroughly, but we've tested the concept. I haven't tested duration yet. I'd have to look at those start and end dates and do a calc, but it looks pretty good at 3,000 days when you look at 6th of November 2015 to 31st of August 2023. Now, there's a few little tweaks I'd want to do there because I'd want the date format to be right. And I found that when you start to tweak things, it can be a little risky because it can lose focus and actually regress. So, you know, this isn't perfect, but this is pretty good for a first pass. And now what I want to do.
Sorry, Mark, we have a question
webinar
from Simon just on, is this on live data?
Yeah, this is it. If I go and change the information, that'll change.
Yep.
I'm not going to do that. I mean, I might when it's working, because in the moment it's going to be working. I think it's going to take it 3.5 to 4 minutes to build the other charts, because it took 11 to build the whole app. We'll find out in a minute. But while it's doing that, I have to do a bit of a dance to entertain you. I'm sorry, I haven't got the chat feature open, so that would help me. So let me just get it back up.
And Simon, if we publish the first webinar as well later on, you can check that out and see that it was built using live data from data through those APIs in 11 minutes. It was very impressive.
I'll actually change the data, and we'll see if that Crown Plaza can increase its costs a little bit in a moment. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to go back into Claude Code, and we're going to ask it to do the other two. It's been nagging me to do that since I finished the webinar in Australia about six hours ago. So going into this, and by the way, that was John Pascoe helping me out there, our new CEO, who started on Wednesday last week. So hopefully we can all get to meet him in the next month or so. So I'm in the wrong screen here. This was the first app that I built. So I'm just going to hover on this hamburger and drop down to the project analytics scatter chart. And so this is the conversation that happened in the first webinar. This is where I put in the request, and this is where it started building. And then it ended up with that as a preview screen. And you can see the app is back up because I woke it up just before this webinar. Ready for your charts 2 to 4 specs whenever you are. Ready for the specs for charts 2, 3, and 4. It's really keen. It wants to help so much. So I just got to go get those now, which I've got written down because you don't want to watch me type them out. So let me just go and get them and paste them into this chat here. So I come in here. Now we're using the latest and greatest release, Fable 5, which was actually banned for a little bit, and now it's been open again. But Opus 4.8 was the first time I built an app, and it was amazing too. But there's definitely been a significant improvement since then with this Fable 5. I'm just going to paste that in now and hit enter. And it's going to be so happy with me. So it's thinking. It is quite a funny thing to watch. It does have arguments with itself, and it does flick itself in the forehead every now and then and give itself an uppercut and other things. It's quite entertaining. But yeah, as I said, this is where it could get a little bit risky because it's going to take a little while. And I think it's kind of fallen asleep because normally it would have responded by now. But while that's happening, let me cover a couple of other little things. For you to start using this in a really big way, what you need to do is you need to get your head around our API, which I know some of you on the call know very well. There's a couple of things we can assist in that. Claude is actually using the same documentation to understand the model, which is why I don't actually need to give it much, but you can see now it's complimented me on my specs, which is great. And so it needs to do the math because I've just put charge rate into it, whereas before we were just doing cost rate. So it needs to get the revenue side of the model. But now if I go into that deployment that we were looking at before, which is this one, and if you've got system administrator rights, you can go to the hamburger. Actually, program manager has it too, and go to API documentation. And when you click on that, it's a Swagger document that documents all the API endpoints. And you'll see in a moment why Claude freaked out because there's quite a lot. And so you need to know where these data sets sit in UniPhi and what they do for you and how you would use them and why you would use them. And then you can build more sophisticated correlations. So for example, on the webinar today, I was talking about correlating the project lifecycle start and end dates with those min and max dates of timesheeting and see where there's differences to see about the duration validity and start to build robustness in your data. So as you scroll down, they're all named there. I think there's about 100, I'm not sure. And you can utilize those to get data out of the application. We also give people dummy Power BI files that have partial models. Now, in the webinar today, I showed the one without the timesheet endpoint. So this time I made sure I created it, opened a file that had it. So this is the timesheet endpoint that I told Claude to use. And as you scroll down, it's going to check it doesn't need me. So you have to check it. It'll ask you to run things and you have to give it permission. So I just keep ducking in. Otherwise, we're going to get stuck in progress. So in this particular dashboard, there's a timesheet endpoint. This is using Power Query. You can use Power Query in Excel as well. You get access to Power Query through this transform data, and you call the API, and it appears here. And you can see anytime there's not a little symbol there, that's a Sigma symbol, so that's different. These are all fields that come out of the API. These are all measures that have been built in Power BI. So a human's gone in and created these. Actually, that's a column calculation. That's a measure when it's a calculator. And when you go down, you'll see total charge, total cost calculations. So that's what Claude's doing in Python rather than in DAX. So that's DAX. And a human had to go and write that. And that was just the first bit. And then it needs to do other stuff and create these Power BI dashboards and then work out where it's going to publish them and get other people getting Power BI Pro licenses at a huge cost to log in and get it and all that sort of stuff. So you can post this and host it wherever you can get hosting facilities, and it's basically free. So I'm just kicking it on again. I said 3.5 minutes, didn't I? So I was a bit out, but I think I slowed it down by not clicking on things. So that's the two paths you can go. Plus, you can come to us and ask us questions about how the API works. And if you have background shell failed, oh, that's no good. And I'm sure it'll get there though. And we'll help you out. And there is really limitless sort of stuff here. So in a couple of weeks' time, we've got our third webinar. That shows how, well, we haven't used this, but how we're using machine learning type capability with our own knowledge of the API model to consolidate multiple UniPhi deployments, to standardize those deployments into uniclass structures. So for example, on tasks and on people, we're standardizing the task effort for tunneling engineers, traffic modelers, geotech, etc., to start getting benchmark information on major infrastructure projects as a model. So we don't have the data, but we will have the model, and then our clients can use that to create advanced estimating parameters around how long it takes to tunnel in different parts of the world, how much money does it take with different specifications to firm up that tunnel, what does a 4-lane highway cost, what's the bridge cost, all that sort of stuff. So that's the demonstration in a couple of weeks. And it's a similar thing. What it's doing is taking all the data out of the UniPhi ecosystem into a new ecosystem that enables you to, and transforming that information on the go, and then enabling you to access that data in a much more efficient way than an API. So this API method is old, but it's still pretty awesome. And it's delivering what we were just describing in these apps. But we will definitely move to what's called an MCP model in the future. But equally, we'll be providing these what they call them Parquet file models that are streamlined and transformed models of the UniPhi ecosystem into these standardized methodologies. So it won't just be for infrastructure. That's where we started. The built environment will do it on elemental codes for cost management. We'll do it on standardized durations to go through master planning, development applications with councils, concept designs, tender documentation, construction. We can look at how many RFIs on average are raised across different types of projects, commercial versus retail versus wholesale, etc. And just start to visualize all that sort of stuff with these types of techniques. But the big IP and the big improvement with UniPhi is the ability to transform that information. And we're doing some pretty cool stuff by analyzing timesheet commentary. We're bringing in specification data from the web. So we don't push any data to the web, but we pull data from the web. So we ask it to tell us about these high profile projects. So we're running projects all over the world that are, Toronto Airport project, Sydney Airport project, whole heap of tunneling projects in Vancouver and in hopefully in that big one over in New York. So with all of that information, then our clients own, but our model will then be able to transform that into standardized data that they can interrogate and start to grow from. So not just infrastructure, but building as well, and a whole lot more really. And I think the capability will extend to our clients being able to do that sort of manipulation themselves with the sort of stuff you've just seen on the screen now. So as you can see, it's popped up with the 3 charts. It's still verifying some stuff, but eventually I'll be able to refresh the browser. This is just a preview that we're seeing, but I'll be able to refresh the browser and have that information on a bit of a bigger screen and see what it looks like.
While you pause there, Mark, I think it's important to highlight the fact that what UniPhi achieves through everything you just described is being able to collect all that information, curate and structure it well to allow this type of innovation and these things, which is
and on individual
really important
projects,
foundation, right?
Yeah, and on individual projects, it's driving the progress independently. So this is more about strategic analysis. It could be enterprise resource planning. It could be estimating on new projects. It could be pipeline views, feeding information to clients about standards. But projects still need to be run, and it's that we excel at, and that's why the data is so good. So people are running a project in UniPhi on a daily basis, pouring data into it just to do their job, and that's how we get rich, governed, awesome information to do this type of analysis with.
Which results in rich insights.
Yeah, so I think it's important to not forget that the interface itself and the application itself is providing that. Otherwise, you wouldn't have the data in the first place. It's not possible, in my opinion, and I've seen some clients try to do it, to pull this data together from the disparate sort of thick client applications that people are using, like P6 and Excel and ERPs and the like, to connect them up. It just doesn't work. So while we're waiting for that to finish up, just a couple of other things. So with regards to getting access to all the new goodies, we're going live on August 3rd. It'll be our 4th webinar. 3rd one is in a couple of weeks, as I mentioned. In 2 weeks' time, the knowledge base will be updated. We've got a person on the call who's easily doing that with all the new features and providing knowledge base articles on those features. So you'll be able to peruse those and get in touch with your account manager about any questions on that. All staging environments will be patched according to a schedule to be released in 2 weeks' time. And so we'll let you all know when your versions will be patched. And then we've got a hard deadline of production updates, because there's quite a lot of security updates in this release as well that we need to get people upgraded to. So normally we're quite passive in that, but we want everyone to upgrade onto this latest version. So we'll be moving from staging to production within 90 days of when you get patched to staging. So that's some background information. Let's see how we've gone. Still running 10 minutes, so It's a little bit sleepier than today, but it did have to build 4 charts, and it looks like it found a few problems with them, but it's getting there. And so once that's finished, if I come back into this one, I'd be able to refresh this page. Actually, it's happening automatically. Look at that. Hey. So that's happening as we go. And so what we can do is just go back to that Crown Plaza one, which was here somewhere. There it is. Let's see if we can move that 137,955. So to do that, I'd go into the timesheets module. I would make sure that I've got some rates, otherwise the cost is not going to change. So this is me. I look at my rate history. I've got rates. And then I go back to the timesheets and I add that project to my timesheet. And I'll just tick the one. Let's say stage 1. Don't want to go too far into the future. So let me just, actually, that's not going to work. Let me try someone else. That's not going to work because the date that it'll be submitted up to is June at the moment. I was going to put those hours in July. So this person hasn't submitted timesheets for a while. Alex Rose is a naughty boy. That period's been closed though. It's going to have to reopen. All right, now we're good. He probably's not on the project though. Oh no, all good. And I'm just going to put 1,000 hours in there, so it's ridiculous. Of course, I now need to check that Alex Rose has rates, but I'm pretty sure he does. All good, 300 and 180. Going to get some big profits out of this one, guys. And that's it. That should be sufficient. Did I submit that timesheet or just save it? I probably only saved it, so I do need to submit it. And we're done. I'm not 100% sure, guys, how this refreshes to the API. If it's just a matter of, let me just see if Claude's finished first. I don't want to interrupt it. Here we go. So all 3 charts are built. Yeah. Okay, good. Good. So just need to refresh it. So I'm hoping it's literally just a matter of that. Hey, $317,955 validated. Now it's still showing cost. We can go into our resources system and double check that. $317,955. So I don't know. That's the second time today I've said that's pretty bloody awesome. But anyway, that's just my opinion.
I say, well done, Mark. I say, what's that total runtime? What, 22 minutes to build 4 dashboards with some filtering and scalable metrics? It's pretty awesome, isn't it?
He took away my total time. I lost it. Anyway, cheeky. He didn't like my comment about him being a bit slow. All right, that's pretty much it for this webinar. That's the show and tell. Hopefully you got something out of it that'll be published and sent to you as a memory of it, as well as episode 1. Episode 3 tomorrow for the Americas region will be to create a separate dashboard from scratch. It'll be looking at cash flow curves because we have a benchmarking algorithm that uses the past cash flows to phase future ones, and it's pretty awesome too. It works really well. But sometimes it's hard to see what those curves look like, so I'm going to build an app that will just show you those curves as an S-curve graph for all the projects that are completed so that you can analyze whether they're valid to be used in that algorithm or not. And that'll be tomorrow's webinar, so we'll post that up as well. But yeah, half an hour, get half an hour back in your day, hopefully. That hasn't caused too many issues, but give you some food for thought and onward and upwards.
Nice one, Mark.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, Simon.
I'd love to hear from clients as well of what sort of use cases you might have found for this or how it's helped. I'll be very interested to hear what everyone thinks.
Yeah.
I'm sure this could definitely replace those very ad hoc one-off requests of how do we slice and dice and analyze this and pull a bunch of data sources together and go nuts with pivot tables and VLOOKUPs in spreadsheets when you could do something like this from the richness of data we have available in UniPhi. I think it seems to me a logical one and one that produces you a pretty awesome result pretty quickly.
That's fine. All right, guys, I'm going to stop the recording there, and I'll finish off and look forward to hearing